This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Want to know what life is really like after the game is all over? Real athletes are here to share their true stories of adversity and triumph every week on After Orange Slices. Even if you don't like sports, pro athletes, former college stars, celebrities, coaches, public speakers, doctors, and all kinds of experts join the show, and there's a little bit of something for everybody. Join me, Bridget, for a slice of inspiration, plus your everyday sports news sprinkled in. New episodes every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, available anywhere you get your podcasts.
Greetings, Dog Pound Nation. Welcome to the Two Green Browns podcast, now part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network, with myself, John Cahill, and my good friend and fellow Irish Browns fan, Neil Dunworth. Neil, how are you today? Being better?
Most of this podcast will just be me making noises, just going, yeah.
This is the one point, it's the only time, I believe, as Browns fans that don't live in the States, we have an advantage. Like, I go into work today and no one gives a toss. No one knows the game was on. So we don't have to deal with chirpy fans from any other franchise.
I've gotten about 40 text messages because I'm trying to convert everybody in my team to, they're all going they all work from home and they're all kind of going, oh, NFL is actually cool. I sit down and I watch it on a Sunday afternoon, and I've kind of tried to convert them all to be Browns fans. They're on the cusp, and after last week of beating the Baltimore Ravens, they were like, yeah, I think we're all in. And then I get loads of messages. I was off work today, I get loads of messages today going, Neil, what have you let us in for? And I said, no, stick with the process.
Oh God, no, they'll have to learn the hard way. They'll have to learn the hard way. But anyway, it was actually torturous watching, Neil. Torturous watching. Very, very bad game for the Browns last night. Looking at the 49ers, very, very snappy running-based attack that absolutely fleeced us. Fair play to Kyle Shanahan, complete masterclass in coaching, and coached the team around his weaknesses, which are the fact that they don't have a quarterback.
Yeah,
and that was quite evident last night. Jimmy Garoppolo ain't it. But apparently they don't need him when you have a fullback and the best tight end in the league, or damn near it.
A fullback was out for the next 4 to 6 weeks with a sprained MCL. I think it was Jermaine Whitehead. It was a great tackle from Whitehead. Caught him, I think, with the helmet to the knee. But yeah, he gone for the next 4 to 6 weeks. But Kyle Shanahan, look, this 49ers team is, like, obviously it's further down the road than it should be further down the road than this Browns team. But this is where stability within the coaching staff gets you. You know, it gets you a team like this that's able to run the ball and that's able to move on the fly. And they kind of just needed a serviceable quarterback. They had better than Ed Mullins last year, and they were tipping and poking around with those guys. But Garoppolo, while we say that maybe he isn't it, he's still a hell of a lot better than those guys. And it goes to show Kyle Shanahan has been there for quite a while now, and it's just got his grubby mitts all over it, you know, and that's what we need. That's what Cleveland needs at the moment. That's what we like. We're too used to maybe blowing it up and changing stuff. And look, everybody knows this, but familiarity is like that's what's brought the 49ers to where they are. Because look at all our running backs. Tevin Coleman just back from injury. Matt Breida, undrafted. Mostert, cut from the Browns. Not a great Browns team either. Undrafted, I think, as well. Their wide receivers, not one of them have great, great. When I say great abilities, like there's not one of them that's OBJ or Landry, but they all work because they all know what the hell is going on. And that's not to say that we don't know what's going on in Cleveland, but it's easier to know what's going on when you've got the same voice talking to you for 3 years on the trot.
Well, what we do today, Neil, is I think we'll dive into each of the facets or sides of the ball, the offense, the defense, and the special teams, and we'll have a little peek, have a little look, see how we think it went, and then at the end we'll reconvene and see where the next few weeks are going to lead us. But anyway, to start on my only positive note, really, I suppose, on the special teams, apart from trotting Odell Beckham out to return a punt in garbage time. Now I'm presuming, Odell was lobbying heavily to be put out in the pitch.
I think he said so
call,
afterwards.
to be fair.
Yeah, I think he said afterwards.
Yeah,
he said,
no.
"Yeah, just put me in there to give a bit of a spark." 4 minutes left in the game.
No, he gets sparked out,
Yeah.
as in knocked out. But Jamie Gillan, wonderful night again of punting. It's really, really bugs me that us, as the punter-loving podcast we are, that it's our only highlight. Really, special teams were pretty much on point. Again, another point I'll bring up is, why are we running the ball out of the end zone on kickoff returns and getting 18, 13, 16, whatever yards returned? It's a little bit infuriating. Again, we'll get back to that a little bit later. Anything else to add on special teams then?
No, I thought we chased pretty well. Richie James did have one or two big returns. I think he one return for about 32 yards. But look, our only points came from special teams. Came from Austin Seibert. So, it's Mr. Prefer.
They did their job.
Yeah, Mr. Prefer has, and actually our special teams, we blocked a kick as well. We blocked one of their kicks. So yeah, Tavier Thomas blocked one of their kicks, and yeah, I give them an A.
Yeah, they did well. They did well. But now on to the heavy stuff now at the moment. So the story of the game for us really last night was the fact that Baker Mayfield never got going, never got out of traps, as they say. Now, when I'm looking at this, Neil, we can't not talk about the offensive line. So
they were pretty shit last night. Sorry.
Yes, mind your language. My mother could be listening. There's a three-headed problem here. There is your O-line, there is your quarterback, and there's your head coach. Now, I cannot, for the life of me, apportion where the majority of blame lies. But I saw with my eyes last night our O-line being very, very soft. But I also saw our head coach scheming tight ends who can't block to block Nick Bosa. Or to block any NFL level good standard defensive end. Trotting out guys one-on-one to defend it. It really sort of left me feeling a little bit cold. So, and to add insult to injury to that, Baker did have a bad game. He held on to the ball too long. He danced around the pocket. He left clean pockets. He could not get out of there quick enough. So I really don't. There's a kind of a movement, I think, that on Twitter that says, that the O-line is pretty much fine, and we can manage with them. That's not what I'm seeing with my eyes.
Like I love all the statistically based stuff, and you have to have statistics as well. But when you see Joel Bitonio going backwards, there's a problem on the line. Like that's Joel Bitonio and Tretter. Well, maybe not so much Tretter, but Joel Bitonio once or twice has landed on his arse, and he was backwards. He was backpedaling. And I was listening to another pod today. I think it might have been Jack Burns, and he mentioned it as well. And like, I remember I sent you a text and I went, like, this O-line is not performing at all. And then straight away afterwards said, oh my God, Joel Bitonio has gone backwards there. The tight ends was a mystery because it was giving them a better angle. Like the way they were lining up the tight ends, it wasn't even as if they were lined up to chip or to block them into a tackle or anything like that. They were lined up in such a way that they were almost off the line of scrimmage. So not only what that was doing, just from a geometrical situation, the angle that they're going to be able to get at the quarterback is going to be wider. So therefore, they're not going to have to use their bend as much because they're going to be able to blow through a Harris or a Pharaoh Brown or
actually just come inside,
just come inside
which
between the
Bosa
two.
did with Demetrius Harris.
Yeah. Yeah, but Demetrius Harris, there was two crazy ones. Demetrius Harris had. Demetrius Harris takes off running. He doesn't block and then shed his block, which I presume he was supposed to do. Demetrius Harris decides he wants to run, and he runs. And next thing, then, I think it was for the last sack. I think it was the one where Bosa waved the flag like a dick. But Greg Robinson then literally had to move his stance completely out by one or two steps. And Nick Bosa was coming at him like a train. There was just no blocking. But I can't. I've never played game, and there is no way. And there's me looking at it in Ireland. There is no way Demetrius Harris was told that he was a receiver in that instance. There just can't be. There can't be. He had no business sprinting up the field. Maybe he was told block Bosa. Maybe, chip him, hold him up, and then get into motion so that you can be there as a receiver once you shed your block, so that you can be an intermediate level or a short level for Baker. But he certainly wasn't to be sprinting and just completely leaving his tackle, wide open like that. It was, for me, that was like, if I'm seeing it, it must be plainly obvious. Is it? And I don't know what the answer is. And you said you can't apportion the blame. Maybe I think it's just might be something as simple as, is it too intricate? Is there too many cooks in spoiling the broth? Not from a coaching point of view, but like there was times yesterday there, like obviously we played 12 personnel and so on. The protections and stuff like that are getting lost somewhere. Maybe there's just too many people in the line going, lads, these protections are too intricate. Maybe it could be just too intricate. I don't know, because
I don't think intricacy has anything to do with it when you see guys getting beat well one-on-one. And I could also say, maybe even yesterday, you can't really discount the fact that the 49ers D-line were that good. The 49ers D-line were fantastic. Actually, and again, for just watching football, to watch how they schemed that opening run with Juszczyk and Kittle getting the blocks out, to watch their D-line, like we had like they were not afraid of Baker Mayfield last night. They stacked the box every time. They took Nick Chubb away from us. They took Nick Chubb away and said, right, Baker, if you can manage with some pressure in the pocket, you might get something. And he got nothing.
That was kind of strange as well for me. And once again, feel free, anybody on Twitter, to tell me that I'm talking through my hat here when I say this. But if you're lining up with two tight ends to help your tackles, why are we running inside all the time? Why was there was very, very few times whereby there was a handoff to Chubb and he actually tried to make it to the outside. A lot of it was up the gut. And my thought process there would be that, like, maybe Freddie really doesn't trust running behind these tackles at all. A lot of power runs were going straight up through the middle. Yeah, there was one or two that were pushed out to the side, but a lot of those are maybe pitches and stuff like that, I don't know. I don't have a tangible recollection of one exact time that I could talk about, but just from my memory, a lot of them were right up the gut. And
last night Nick Chubb had 16 attempts. And he had 87 yards. 37 of them were on one play. Yeah, so it didn't work. They completely took the running game away. And that's, again, I don't think it's a reflection on Nick Chubb. I think it is more of a reflection on the play calling and the O-line play. As a unit, our wide receivers were taken away from us, really, again, because of the pressure that was getting to Mayfield. Like with the pocket collapsing around him, or with him out of the pocket, he got to Jarvis really, like, I suppose Jarvis had 75 yards. And again, one of those 25-yard play, six receptions?
Yeah,
I'm not sure, 4 maybe, but other than that, they tried their best. And to be fair, I appreciate, they did try to get Beckham involved in the game, but trick play on the first play, really, is that what we're doing with the best, or one of the best wide receivers in the game?
Yeah, that is fair. And I've actually just found something here with Chubb's running, the directions of his running, and 13 of his 16 were up the middle, and he did get some yardage on them. Actually, I did him a small disservice. So when he ran between the left guard and the center, he did get some joy. You know, he got 51 yards, and he had 5 attempts there, and he had 51 yards. He got 2 first downs that way. But I was correct in what I was saying, that there was 13 attempts when he ran directly up the middle. You know, 13 attempts for actually, yeah, 86 of his yards came from 13 of those attempts, and they were all up the middle. So he didn't run behind his right tackle once. Ran behind the left tackle twice, and he ran behind one of the tight ends once for -5 yards. So when he pushed it out to the outside, he went to the left, and he didn't get much joy whatsoever. So I don't know where that is. I don't know why that is. If anybody has any answers, put them on a postcard, send them to us here in Ireland.
So I suppose essentially what we're saying here, Neil, is completely and utterly dud display on offense. Nothing going, nothing there. And I suppose the most troubling thing really on an overall thing is that Baker looking bad.
Yeah, he didn't throw one attempt in the intermediate routes. He didn't throw one attempt to his left-hand side. And last year there was rumblings of he can't throw to his left, he can't throw to his left. Now he threw one long pass. It was incomplete to the left-hand side. He threw behind the line of scrimmage and once on his left-hand side, I think for 7 yards. I think that's what it was. But like a lot of his stuff is down the middle, and when he throws to the right, you know, whether it's to the outside, long or intermediate, he's got some great numbers there when he throws to the right. But you know, it's interesting. I'll be looking to see, like, he's rolling to the right all the time. Obviously, that's why he's throwing that way, and obviously he's a right-handed passer, so he's not going to roll to the left and throw across his body, especially when he's rolling out of the pocket. But it's interesting to see. You know, I'd like to see the amount of intermediate and short runs. Get him some rhythm. You know, it's been said a couple of times on podcasts as well today that I listened to us, and it's true. It's get him in a rhythm. You know, every play doesn't have to go for a touchdown. Every play doesn't have to be a chunk play. Get him in a rhythm. Do what they did with Garoppolo. You know, not even dink and dunk, but like just get him some short passes. They probably tried that at the start of the game. Odell dropped 2 within the space of the first 5 minutes. He had a throw on the sideline, on the right sideline, to Ricky Seals-Jones, who just got, you know, if his toenails were longer, he probably would have kept the ball in. That would have been a completion as well. Yeah, it's not unsolvable. I don't think anything here is unsolvable. It was a bad day at the office. Like it's
not unsolvable.
It's a bad, like this is a really bad day at the office. They traveled. Something else to think about it. They traveled on Saturday. They traveled on Sunday for didn't they? Yeah, they traveled Sunday morning for a Monday night game out to California. You know, it's in California. There is a bit of travel there and so on. It's an away game. If this had happened in First Energy Stadium, there would genuinely the place probably would have exploded. It's an away game. The 49ers were a very decent team. They performed really admirably last night. They didn't put a foot wrong. They really didn't. We came up against a complete performance from a team with a struggling quarterback, who struggled. But apart from that, everything else, all the sum of their parts was better than the individuals, whereas the sum of our parts wasn't. And we had some individuals, but because obviously some of the parts weren't there, we couldn't get it to our individual playmakers. And that's the tail of the tape. That's what happened last night.
And then you have as I said, the offense, like it was literally null and void by the scheming and good play of the 49ers, to be fair. So let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. Doesn't get a whole lot better, Neil. Doesn't get a whole lot better from what I've seen. I saw guys getting pushed off blocks. So again, right. So we first of all, before we talk numbers or stats, just things I saw. I saw Mac Wilson running all over the place. Didn't see him doing a whole lot, other than running past people that he should be tackling. I think that's something he really needs to work on. I think the game is going very, very quickly for him at the moment, and the game needs to slow down for him. I think Kirksey is a bit of a miss there for us. Our corners were quite soft yesterday, and I also was looking at Jermaine Whitehead caught my attention quite often. Most of the time when he was stuck to George Kittle's back, being dragged down the field. Up front, the D line. This is a D line like that people were raving about at the start of the year, and like we had Chad Thomas popping up with a sack yesterday, and Miles came in with one sack as well. Other than that, pressure didn't really come, and the back end of that defense, Greedy and Denzel Ward can't get back quick enough, but I really don't want to see them rushed.
Yeah. It didn't happen. It certainly didn't happen last night for our safety, our defensive back room. That was, it's been running on fumes for the last few games. Performed very admirably against the Rams. Performed very, very admirably against the Ravens. Absolutely superbly. I think against the 49ers, I sent you a message as well last night. TJ Carey, being a very handsy cornerback, was looking for I think he was looking to get hands on people at the line of scrimmage, and then with the misdirection that was happening and the fact that there are a lot of there was RPOs happening, when it then happened to turn into a run play, and a couple of times Matt Breida and Mostert, when they actually did get out to the outside, the cornerbacks were actually engaged with their wide receivers, so it looked like they actually sought out the contact first, in the event that it was going to be a pass play, and then next thing, all of a sudden, the running backs start to scoot, and then all of a sudden they're engaged in a block. They can't shed the block, and the running back has kind of gone past them before they can turn around to tackle. There was a couple of times like that. Now, once again, please tell me to shut up if anybody out there, if this is the done thing. But for me, there needs to be a small bit more cuteness there. If you have to get hands on somebody in the first 5 yards, maybe if you have to get that much hands on them in the first 5 yards, I don't know, against that caliber of wide receiver, then maybe you're, maybe you might be fooling yourself a small bit. I don't know. But I was a small bit disappointed, in the secondary. Josh Obert had a lot of tackles. Mac Wilson, look, it's the exuberance of youth, 5th round pick. Nobody would have expected him to be playing as quickly as he was. Well, he would have expected to have been playing that long, or that quick, should I say. But one thing that kind of irked me was Taki is known to be a boom player. And when they're trying to run the ball, how about we get our boom player on the field a small bit more? I don't know how many snaps yet. I could be completely wrong here again, but get like a hard hitter, like that's somebody who's gonna hang back and see it like a seeking missile and hit somebody hard. Taki, we're 5 games in and no one has really mentioned much about him. He gave away a penalty on special teams from memory, number 44, but we're not seeing him on the field. 3rd round pick. I know he's had a hamstring injury and so on, but if he's fit to go, last night would have been a perfect time to get him in there, get him hitting people hard, as opposed to maybe one of the safeties. Last night might have been time to stack the box, go with your traditional 3 linebackers, be a bit more flexible with it. But yeah, that's just kind of my 2 cents on the defensive side of things. Myles Garrett came up with a good sack. Sheldon Richardson was there. He was like I think we should still be getting more out of him. Ogunjobi, I think, got a sack. Chad Thomas got a sack. Olivia Vernon set the edge. Didn't set the edge, obviously, should I say, because it was 200 and something yards. But the Chris Smith, I was disappointed in. I think about 5 minutes into the game, I texted you as well, John, and I said Chris Smith doesn't have the pace to get in the rush, and he looks like he's running in treacle when he's trying to chase somebody down. So he looked a bit labored last night, Chris Smith, and obviously everything that's going on with him is fine, but from a physical productive standpoint, I just thought he looked a small bit labored last night.
So Neil, after all that, we are heading into a short week. Mm-hmm. We have the Seattle Seahawks coming into town.
Yep.
What level of concern are you?
I'm not concerned, and the reason it's not that I'm not concerned. I obviously want to see this thing get a blast of consistency, but I'm not sitting here, fucking putting on Radiohead and embracing the depression session that seems to be going on. Yes, look, I do support this team as much as some other people. I'm 4,500 miles away. It's not as if I would. As you say, like, we stayed up until 4:30 in the morning. That's commitment, to following a team. Bit pissed off afterwards, yeah, but look, it was a bad day at the office. Sometimes you got to look at it and go, right, your luck's not in. Your luck isn't in, and maybe the other team just had your number last night. They had 2 weeks to prepare. The Titans solely prepared for the Browns. The Titans destroyed the Browns. The 49ers solely prepared for the Browns. The 49ers destroyed the Browns. We have the Seahawks coming up in a short week. We have 2 weeks to prepare for the Patriots. Let's hope that if we've got 2 weeks to game plan specifically for Tom Brady and the Patriots, that we can catch them cold. I'm not saying that it's likely, but we could do. The 2 times we've been absolutely iced completely have been teams that have seen us from the long grass for 2 full weeks.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said there. Not to be said there.
I think I think definitely. So I was looking at a quick look at the schedule there just when we're coming on. So the Seahawks bye week, the Pats, then Broncos and Bills. I think we're going to know where we stand after the Bills game. After that Bills game, we want to have, if we have 3 more wins in the bag, if we go 3-1 in this current stretch, we're in very good stead. If we go 2-2, we're okay. If we go 1-3, I think, we're looking at bigger problems, because people are talking, and it's just being said quite openly. Look at our schedule. We have the cookie cutter, or whatever you call it, the cupcake schedule, running. That's fine. That's great. But we're going to put ourselves in a position where we got to win all those games if we don't pull a result or 2 out in the coming games. And it's going to be interesting. I'd have to say that 2 of the more interesting games of the season coming up for me, the Seahawks, very interesting team. Russell Wilson, very, in my eyes, criminally underrated. He's one of the best out there. He's one of the best in the game, and he does it with a minimal spend on his wide receiver core and stuff like that, because obviously he's getting paid all the money. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach that game. I'm not for a second saying we're into must-win territory. What I'm saying is, if we can pull a win out of the Patriots and the Seahawks, if we could pull 1 win out of there, we're looking all right. We're looking all right for a good run. I think people are pulling the pin on the grenade very early here, and I think we all need to settle down.
I'm positive. I don't if we get people seem to have this taboo and say, 9-7, that's a failed season. I saw that on Twitter today. 9-7 is a failed season. Not if it gets in the playoffs, it isn't. If 9-7 gets you in the playoffs, if you sweep the rest of your division, twice against the Steelers, twice against the Ravens, twice against the Bengals, if you do that within your division, you will most likely be going to the playoffs.
I think from that perspective, O'Neill, I can see of someone holding a valid opinion that a 9-7 season, after all that has been spent and traded for, whereas we had 8-7-1.
No, I still don't believe in that, because all seasons aren't created equally. Yes, if you play the same teams every year, then yes, that's correct. I don't buy into that. When we were playing teams at the end of last year that didn't have much to play for, we were knocking teams out of contention as well. Don't get me wrong. We also had the element of surprise. I don't buy that. Every season is different. Just because you've got a good season doesn't mean that you should automatically be able to buy wins the next year.
But from memory, I think our schedule was the hardest in the NFL last year, and I think this year is probably one of the easiest.
Exactly.
However,
but
in saying that, if we're taking a longer view here, and this is the thing, this is the problem I think Freddie Kitchens is going to run into. And now, believe me, I'm not in the fire Freddie brigade just yet. not there yet. But where people are going to get ammo, where people are going to get ammo for Freddie's seat to get hot, is going to be the fact that he has been given the keys to a Ferrari, and he's just sat in and started driving. I don't think he has 2 seasons to learn.
I don't understand this giving the keys to a Ferrari. No, I don't, because like we're not, like, it goes back to what I said, the sum of the parts. If it was a Ferrari, the sum of the parts would all be working together to be able to get us up to that top speed. What we have is we have the components, we don't have them on the chassis yet. That's what we have. That's because like kind of
could really get bogged down in this analogy.
But that's what it is. Everybody says, "Oh, we've got the players. They should just come out of the gun, and everything should be fine." Then why the hell do we need coaches? Why the hell do we need tactics? Why do we need to scheme anything if the players just know how to do it? No, I know I'm being overly optimistic here. I'm being overly optimistic, but I am optimistic for the season. And look, we're 5 games in, and people are calling Baker a bust. People are calling Freddie Kitchens. I saw him referred to as a fat running backs coach today. Like, that doesn't do the team any good. As fans, like, I'm not telling anyone how to be a fan, but all I'm saying is I won't be doing that. I won't be calling Freddie names. I won't be calling Baker a bust. Yeah, we might turn around and say, yeah, they might be able to do this better. This team will get better. It absolutely will. And if it doesn't, maybe, yeah, well, then he'll be fired, and I look silly. But nothing is given.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly it. Like I said, and I don't think anyone's going to look silly for being positive about your team at this stage in the season. Like, but it's just, as I said, like, at the moment, I would caution everyone: put the pin back in the ground.
Yeah,
sit back,
100%.
relax.
If we go out and beat the Seahawks,
if this team isn't stuffing, sorry, no. If this team isn't stuffing, Miami, Arizona, the Bengals twice. If we're not stuffing, if we're not ramming it down these guys' throats, then there's a problem. But like that, we can't identify that till towards the end of the season. So for the time being, I think we should just sit back, relax, and enjoy.
9-7, get to the playoffs, enjoy it. It's fucking hell of a lot better than 1-15 and 0-16. And then once we get to the playoffs, we can build on it from there. We like a winning season.
We have a lot more wins ahead of us than losses.
Exactly, yeah. My prediction, I still think we're going to get to 10-6. I still think we're going to get to 10-6. That was my prediction at the start of the year, 10-6. And I still think, like, we haven't lost we aren't in a position that I didn't expect us to be in at the moment. Yes, we haven't played as well, but from a win-loss point of view, I expect us to beat the Titans. And I expected us to lose to I would have expected us to maybe lose to Baltimore, So, like, I would have expected us to come out in 2-0 and then go maybe on a 4-game losing streak. That's what I actually expected. That's what I had marked.
And
up.
And the same end result.
And exact same end result, exactly. Which and I know the whole thing is that people are pissed off and despondent because we're not playing the way we should be. As you said, we've got the keys to the Ferrari, but the Ferrari is spitting oil out at us. But that's fine, we got to dial it in. You can't sit into a Formula 1 car and know how to drive it straight away. And look, fair play. Look, that is correct. We don't have time for Freddie Kitchens to learn how to be a head coach. He does need to do that pretty quickly. But games are ticking away. Yes, I'm trying to cover all bases here. But what I'm saying is that I still think we can win 9 games this year, get to the playoffs, and we can be a playoff team for once in our existence, since 2007. We'll be a playoff team.
Neil, on that positive note, I think we'll leave it for today's show. Thanks very much to everyone for listening. Please pass on the pod to your friends and retweet it and rate and review it. It'll really help us out. Follow us on Twitter, myself at John Cahill _IRL, and Neil at Jim Custard. And until next time, go Brownies.